Namaskar. Hello, friends. We have been looking at the topic of desires. I'm continuing today on the same topic. Sense pleasures are like a check signed in a vanishing ink. Imagine being given a check signed in a vanishing ink. At first glance, the check seems fine and we feel pleased having received some money. But later, when the bank returns the check saying unsigned check, we will feel unhappy, angry, cheated. Then, in accordance with the saying, once bitten, twice shy, we will stop accepting checks altogether and start asking for real money instead of the illusory money in the form of checks signed in vanishing ink. The sense pleasures that we seem to be getting in this world are like checks signed in vanishing ink. At first, they please us, but soon enough, the pleasure vanishes. Now, in the case of checks signed in vanishing ink, we at least learn the lesson quickly. But in case of sense pleasures, we do not seem to learn the lesson at all. We seem to love that momentary pleasure sufficiently to remain hooked onto it. We even keep going back to the signatory to get the check signed again, believing every time that now the ink won't vanish. And we don't realize, even when we die, that we have been cheated out of our life, which has gone waste, that we kept chasing an illusion without knowing the real thing that we should seek. Then we keep repeating the same cycle in life after life. That is where the importance of vairagya or detachment comes in. We have to realize the futility of pursuing sense pleasures and ego pleasures on offer in this physical world. Only then can we turn towards the real money, namely seeking our real self. We think that desire moves us to take some action. But I would think desire is not necessary as a motivation for action. Action can be for its own sake. A very common confusion found with most people is in respect of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita verse Karmanye Vadhikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachana, which means you have a right to only performing action and not to the fruit of your action. Taken together with the exhortation that one should not think one is the doer of his actions, this is the most misunderstood philosophy in Bhagavad Gita. Many people take the first one to mean that one should not think of the outcome of his efforts, but just focus on the effort. It then naturally causes a doubt in their mind as to how one can put in effort unless one thinks about and understands what the effort is intended to achieve. Most people feel that without desire, one won't be moved into any action at all. In other words, most people feel that if there is no desire, one will become lazy and inactive. They think desire is the essential locomotive for action. This confusion can be removed if we understand clearly what should drive our effort in any situation. The right way is to think of a goal, chalk out an action plan, and then take action accordingly. The goal should simply be used for getting the direction for efforts. Here, it is very important to make the goal as dispassionate as possible. We should not waste any emotion or undue interest in the achievement of goal. That is where we may distinguish between objective and desire. A goal set only for directing our efforts in some direction without any vested interest in the achievement of the goal is the objective, and it will give the motivation required. On the other hand, a goal with a vested emotional interest in its achievement can be called a desire. The desire is to be shunned and not the effort, as per the Gita philosophy. In karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhur ma sangostu akarmani. So it also means that you should not want to avoid karma. You should not shun action. Do you think a desire to pass an examination in mathematics is necessary for motivating a student to practice solving mathematics problems or even for actually passing the examination? Not quite. A student who likes mathematics will solve the problems because he gets pleasure out of it. He enjoys each step that gradually leads to the solution of the problem. He will pass the examination too as a natural outcome of his effort without specifically desiring that outcome. Most people find it difficult to appreciate that desire should be discarded if we want to pursue the spiritual goal of liberation. They are afraid that without desire, the essential locomotive for action would be missing and one may become inactive. But action can have other locomotives too. Consider bodily movement. The instruction for movement of hand normally comes from the mind and the brain. For example, a thought or a desire for taking out a book from the bookcase comes in our mind, and then the brain instructs the appropriate muscles of legs and hands to move and do the needful. However, movement of hands and legs can come about even without our mind or brain coming into picture. For example, when we accidentally touch a hot object, our medulla oblongata directly gives the instruction to the hand muscles to withdraw without the brain or mind coming into picture beforehand. We know this to be a reflex action. This, of course, is purely a physiological phenomenon connected with survival instinct. But even a conscious task can either be performed with desire as its locomotive or without it. Motivation for action in the worldly life usually comes from the mind, and action gets executed through the brain and action organs. But motivation for action can also come from pure consciousness or the divine or the soul. Let me call that motivation as the divine objective. It is not centered around any selfish interest except only outwardly. It is something that fits the big picture of the Creator and helps us work out a roadmap for action. A spiritually inclined person will then focus on the action in the present moment and not remain preoccupied with the thoughts of reaching the destination. He will enjoy the walk even if he may or may not reach the destination. He will enjoy the scenery alongside as he is not emotionally keyed up about reaching the destination. A typical worldly person, however, has his eyes and mind always fixed on the destination, and then he misses the potential pleasures of the journey itself. He will miss the beautiful scenery alongside as he walks because he is all the time trying to see how far he is from the destination, and he is anxious to reach as early as possible. And he will also feel disappointed if he does not reach the destination. In such a case, The objective coupled with attachment becomes a desire. Due to this attachment, such a person will have to undergo emotional ups and downs like hope, anxiety, and self doubt along the way. His emotional level would be much more excited, agitated than that of a spiritual person. He is likely to indulge in actions that are dishonest and aimed solely at fulfilling the desire by hook or by crook. In short, desire is something that is anchored in future and compels us to try and cross the bridge even before reaching it. Thus, desire becomes the foreground. On the other hand, an action orientation is rooted in the present with the objective forming only a background. We'll stop here today. We'll continue the next time. Until then, bye.